Good morning. This is Bob Passy for Democracy Rising America. It's been a while. I've been dealing with some health issues, but mostly I've been working on a book about the 2016 presidential election, the hows and the whys, and what is it really meaning, and what has it exposed in terms of the system changes that need to occur in this country. Basically, we have a system that is uh, that that we didn't really choose exactly. It was sort of subverted our basic democratic system, and we're just seeing the final results of that changeover. How our democracy has been whittled away, and how economics has taken the place of uh, more humane democratic rule, and the results of what has happened because of that. So in the process of thinking that through and working on the book, a couple things got clear to me. One of them was that nearly all of the issues connected with what's going on in this country are a result of a system that is not a democratic system. So I might call this talk Democracy First. If we had a democracy, at least at least half of the problems just would not be problems, because the voices of the people would be the determining factor. Many of the pieces of legislation that are passed, and for the last several decades actually, are not what the people wanted. In fact, the polls have almost always shown that they're almost the opposite of what the people wanted. What they are, if you look at it from the perspective of where the power is they're pieces of legislation that the economic elite wanted. The people who, under the auspices of neoliberal economics, decided that economics was the determining factor, and that whatever the market said was the reasonable way to go forward with any issue is what it was. In other words, it was profit over human needs and over democracy. So if we could find our way back to begin the journey back to democracy, and not a radical idea. I mean, it's our heritage. Actually, this current system is a much more radical idea than going back to democracy. But yeah, we need to find a way to make the transition from this neoliberal economic system back to a full-fledged democracy. And if we had the democracy, in other words, if we put the democracy first, half of the problems that we have would disappear, because the reason that we have a problem is that the neoliberal economic elite won't allow the solutions that would resolve the problem for most of the people. They're problems for us. They're not problems for them. They're opportunities for them to make a lot of money, and that's what they've been doing. And that's why we have income inequality to the degree that we have it, and that's why we have almost no voice anymore. So it's the other half of the problems. If you went back to a democracy, in other words, if you had a democracy first before you started the process, as we used to have, then the other half of the problems would be able to be resolved, because you'd hear the voices of all the different sectors, rather than just being dominated by the voices of the money. And in that process, I mean, democracy is a somewhat messy business, but we find answers. So in the process of hearing the democratic voices, those problems would eventually be solved, and they'd be resolved in ways that were sustainable. They wouldn't be short-term answers. They wouldn't be answers that give short-term profits for some and devastation for everyone else. And what we're looking for is to find a way back to a sustainable democracy again, a balanced democracy. And this isn't about, forget about economics. Economics is certainly a part of it, but the economics is supposed to be serving democracy and not having democracy as subservient to the economics of it. That's where I want to start. We'll talk again later, but I'm calling this peace democracy first. All right, thanks a lot. Bye now.